It's going to be first a teaching to Amitabha in relation to Amitabha, teaching an introduction to Amitabha, and then in the afternoon there will be the empowerment of Amitabha. Rinpoche will bestow the empowerment into the meditative deity of Amitabha in the afternoon. So in this context, it's important first that one is introduced into the history of Amitabha. That one knows actually some background. And Guru Rinpoche said in this context, in the 7th chapter prayer, it's a famous prayer, first it's important to know the historical account. For this, for knowing the qualities of Amitabha, and in this context the history, the historical account, and the benefit, we will gain confidence actually. We will gain faith first, and afterwards confidence. So first we are introduced in historical account, and then upon seeing the qualities, faith will arise. So these 4 points are important, as counted in this 7th chapter prayer of Guru Rinpoche. It says if we pray, 4 conditions have to come together. Again, by hearing upon the historical account of the deity, inspiration will grow, and then if we see the quality of the deities, based on that, faith will arise. By cultivating, surrendering faith to the deity, the blessings will actually enter our mind. And then finally, when the mind is free of doubt, when praying to the deity in this context to Amitabha, the intentions will be accomplished. And so it says that basically all these 4 have to come together once one is introduced into the qualities of the deity here, in particular Amitabha. So we have to have a mind without doubt. If blessings want to enter our mind, we need to be free of doubt. We need to have a certainty. And we have to pray one-pointedly without doubt, and then the blessings of the Buddha can enter our mind stream.
산지는 자야 요리대. 산지 용진의 신이 산지의 용진 싹좀 잡아래. 어때 저거 뭐나는 어서야 탄 산지 두가 자야 요리대 하고는. 왜 뭐나죠? 로라피스 산지를 봐서 어때? 왜 로고 산지를 어디 산지에다 주다 기술을 잡고 성나 그래서 또 산지에 요리대. 예를 들면 일단 나버려 주로 나 봐 산지 방도 고조좀 잡고 산지구나. 고조좀 잡고 놓고래. 그 와서 말하더니 저기에 차는 게 빠져 있지 고요리. 그게는 다 서서 산지 공항. 대선매가 이런 거예요. 대선부터 잘하는 거 좀. 세계 단지 상기야 너 이제 대선매가 자고 해야 돼.
So it's important to have faith and trust. Also when we pray in this famous prayer, may all sentient beings reach the state of Buddhahood, and also for the benefit of all sentient beings, may I reach Buddhahood. So if we have this aspiration in our mind, we need to have some certainty too, some quality of conviction in our mind upon knowing the ineffable and the limitless qualities of the Buddha, and also to know that all sentient beings have this potential of actually awakening or become Buddhas through taking refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and then praying wholeheartedly based on these causes of faith, trust and conviction without any doubt. May all sentient beings reach the state of Buddhahood, and may I practice for the sake of all sentient beings.
There's Sanjay Yunti, the Juna Kata, the Yuki or the Romta, Palas, or Sanjay Yunti, what Dunkin. What you shut down what Dunkin, don't pitch a touching to be all money. That's not the Fabia Yoris. Yena, the Tonda Kang, Simply Tom to some Daddy Oba. It Jetashi, Tang Jabo, simply Tom Howard Jetashi, Chami Rose. 다 코어는 참 산지 저다 톱고 이들이 저당 되면 이 망고 창이 되죠. 앞으로서 공 하고 그들이 서울이면 저쪽만 또 요말 상계를 답하더니 좌족세를 좌족세를 요나 산지를 뒤초 뒤보고 줘요. 매라 매바 저당 대장 좌족세인데 매라 나는 상계야요 말이지. 아빠 망고를 들인 게 누구잖아요. 사족선가 말 저는 상계야요 말이지. 그래, 요로 사제들로 뒤쪽도 미래 사제들로 탁 쳐봐야지. 너나도 다 같이 가면 또 망고 제대로 해야지. 우리 사족선들 생들 그다음 아들 되고 그다음 아들 샘도 상등지단 되고 노래 샘도 상등지단 제일 맞다가 나는 되는데 상계 다를 못 잡으려고 했어.
So we can study the qualities of the Buddha, so the qualities of awakening through scriptural reasoning, scriptural authority. In other words, we can study in the scriptures, we could study them 20 years. And even after 20 years we would not be finished with studying all the scriptures which are available to describe all the qualities. There will be always more and more to study. But then we can also essentialize it and look at the essentialized meaning or quintessentialize it, which boils down to the point that all sentient beings have the potential to awaken to Buddhahood. They have a seed in them. So that's one. And then also the other thing is that, well, sentient beings are currently in samsara. They are wandering in the ocean of suffering of samsara. So they need to be freed, and may they realize the stage of Buddhahood. So for this then comes in the presentation of cause and effect. So we have the cause for awakening, but also the situation that the sentient beings are currently wandering in samsara, but then also the potentiality to awaken to Buddhahood. So if we boil it down in the final point, it's actually we have to understand the cause. What is the cause and the method, the methodology which brings the sentient beings of wandering in samsara to enlightenment. And this is nothing else than bodhicitta. As the famous Patarumcha said, if we do have bodhicitta, this alone is enough to have, when we talk here of authentic bodhicitta, if we are endowed with authentic bodhicitta, this alone is enough to reach Buddhahood. Bodhicitta into two stages. If we have no bodhicitta in our mind stream, even if we would practice for eons, for countless times, there will be no awakening. So that's like in essence, we could, good understandable we can say this. If we have put effort and developed this bodhicitta, there will be, this is the method to reach Buddhahood. So we have to connect our mind with loving kindness and compassion. So these are the stages of the practice. We have to make a link and connect. Otherwise there will be never awakening if we can't give rise to love and loving kindness and compassion and ultimately bodhicitta. Otherwise it's really very far, very distant.
더 시송아 그러나 라니 소비면 뒤쪽으로 따른 영인제는 계속은 되니 몇째 찍라 문제들이 저가는 데니 사진은 비슷도 받으니 차이 오래 돼요. 로지 오래 무슨 사찬한테 담보 내기 어렵고 그러다 세임이 좀과 양기 민말도 줄이 이게 자원 시말이 이게 이설때는 라만 집이도 되거든. 근데 단단한 선을 원해. 이 공부들이 필요한 손은 이것에 맞겠지. 소재 좀 참자. 그리고 다바지를 거 이게 심하지. 이게 진짜 심하다. 다른 말로 다만 못 써요. 얼마나 족박다 그래. 이게 무슨 다 콘크리트니 카드다 그게 콘크리트 거기 이게 송 그리고 이디지 그리고 로시로 이게 심하다. 이거 이제 다바지 자세라는 소리는 다 그런다 놓고요. 그래서 남라 제는 그 진짜 철거를 그래서 내리 이렇게 시작을 이만이 자는 것은 족발 쳐. 그런 것은 냠대요 원래. 거기도 잠깐 말이에요. 이런 게 근데 코리는 이발 코로다는 나요 말. 코로 너 타라도 가려 말았잖아. 네 목에 코로 나요 말이. 렌치는 이거 말이 저게 돼. 네, 저게 돼. 그래도 어디다 보면 다 들어오고 이제 짜는 얘가 말이야. 근데 이마 잠그 종항을 줘서 종항을 줘서인데 이 종항을 좀 하다 인자들 공부했던 차직잖아. 이 칼라 맛이 발에 채웠다. 소조 계속 나 미창을 가다. 나 주와도 생나 침보리. 나 발에 사주면도 소조 가는 거 이 공부 이제 차직이 발에 참아야 뽕. 나는 중화를 그거 또 그래. 같이도 참만도 살아오지. 나 참만도 살고 그래지. 그래 하자 주고 그래지. 그래서 이 참아하래. 이 참아하는 잠들 이때 공부관 또 전통의 때 공부하던데 그렇게 사진이 것이 동성 시선
Jarlan.
몇 개지. 좀 시선. 시선 자를 그래서 이놈은 저게 너만 지금 강화를 독도 시선 이 말이 주지. 그래서 때문에 되는데 그때가 야래더니 너만 계시니 망고를 했대. 나신 좀 깨다 야래. 했더니 거기 있어만 실마에 같이 자세라니 이제 이게 심하고 카드 잡으러 와야지. 네, 다당 손가락 되거든요.
So if we only would practice our whole life, these 37 practices to apply them truly, authentically in our life, this would be already unbelievable, amazing. And in this context, there is a story, something which I saw with my own eyes. When I was in Tibet, still in the monastery, there was a person, and he was actually quite a bad person. He had quite a bad conduct. He was a lot in fights and quarrels all the time. He was hunting, killing animals, and had very bad conduct. He was completely illiterate, a person who was not able to read. But then he met my root teacher, Lama Chime Dorje, and slowly he got some instruction from this Lama, from this amazing Lama, and he started to grow a faith in this Lama. And slowly also his conduct changed, his behavior changed. And then he had the wish to become a monk, actually a fully ordained monk. Later he was a gelong or a bhikshu, a fully ordained monk. But still he was not able to read. And because he never learned it as a young person, and then he couldn't get his mind into learning to read. But then his only practice was actually, he heard from his teacher, from Lama Chime Dorje, this 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. He was like taught line by line, and he would just along memorize these lines. So that's the way, he learned from the mouth, from the lips of his master, and memorized these 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas. And that's what he did, and that's what he recited every day, and not just recited, that was his practice. And even us, we would kind of make fun of him, you know. We were the monks, they were very knowledgeable, some of us, and we would kind of like point, what are you doing, what is your practice, and that's just what he did. Just being here, he had nothing to do, he could not read, he could not do rituals. That's just what he practiced. He kept sitting upright and not just kept reciting, he applied this practice in his mind stream. And it was actually amazing, even then when turmoil came and change came with the Cultural Revolution and when this kind of time started to enter and difficult times came, we saw actually that he was quite amazing, because no matter what happened, he would never get angry, he would never get upset. He was just totally happy and content in himself. And also quite amazingly, at night he would not sleep. He would just sit upright and just be there, just be present. And he had very poor clothing, he had almost no belongings, and it was quite amazing. And later also he was in prison. He was in prison too, by the Chinese, and we were in the same camp. And even there his conduct was actually quite amazing. And at one point he just said he would not eat food anymore, he would fast. And but still he was given food and he just collected it. And then people were very hungry, and really hungry in prison. And after he finished his fast, after a week he would just share the food, and everybody was so happy. He would just distribute all what he collected during that week. And so he was really an amazing person. And then also he died actually in prison. He died in prison, and he died sitting upright, which is really also a sign of a great accomplished master. And the Chinese came then, I mean, it was in the prison, the guards came, and they were quite upset and said, oh, he's a fake or something, you know, because people realized that he's an amazing person, the Tibetans. And but he was sitting upright. I mean, he was already dead in a deep state of samadhi. And then only then the Chinese, they throw him over, they kicked him over, only then he kind of fall to the ground. But that was his only practice, the 37 practice of the Bodhisattva.
상계도 가리 상고도 저는 나기 뒤로 또 상고도 나기 봤는데 나도 가서 때는 나도 생각을 봤다만 동제 다요는 나들 진짜 뭐 저기 동송 데리더니 계속 데리다 거봐도 다 그렇게 몸쪽으로 저들 로아를 저기로 데리는 진짜 다 강미드는 그래서 예당 다 진주 로드 가르치거든 인주 로세 뭐고래 인주로 도다를 신기 담지들은 차롬다를 차디로래 이제는 사리인장 아사자 나의 휴다 줄을 다를 줄을 남라만 보러래 대통령 다도 좀 때를 줬다 소리 때를 차다가 똑같이 필린 양전이 맞지는 내가 그러래 다지다는 뭐가던 죄네 문이 사소선데 세비가 이제 사정생은 대시소나 몇 수라지요 상계지로 이 빼놓고 대회는 생기던데 상계지가 생긴 상계 선행은 선대 사지 저래 선대 나디는 달나 나디는 상대 나용 인진 다리니 this 다리 이디 내가 하고 다리니 내가 하고 선은 선나 받아와 하고 이들 상 예들 나가다 예를 받쳐버려. 대체도 사제 당세도 또 받쳐버려. 사제 어디로 올라와. 대자부터 또 사제가 밤에야 되니. 사제가 밤에야 되다가 상 예로 되다가 나무 상속도 턱지. 주스무 사제 당세. 나무 생기 당세 빈고사. 이 바로 장미서 조사하지. 이 바로 서바도 요가지. 타만 거버도 상비에도 다음에 그 공동을. 이제 산재 못방 털었지. 죽은 농고 다시 함대가 된지 함대라서 봐도 사족수를 아무를 줬고요. 세단자 송제들. 이 대회다 다들이 대학 인생 함대 로주시나 산진이 시작해. 산진이 주권을 롱그게 롱금 신앙들이 되어시 이렇게 산족성의 송아 대하거나 이래서 소속의 산족성장은 되나 이 대화지 조카를 나도 산족성 대화지 지금 산족성을 저기와를 기존나 하고는 되게 잔디가 마음을 놓지는 다 시행을 오래지.
So this was just one account, but if we look in the world, also there were actually countless beings who even reached the rainbow body, like the highest state of realization in the Buddhist context, like the so-called rainbow body. But if we look upon the root of all this realization, it is truly the single-pointed wish, and not just the wish, actually the realization and the aspiration, may all sentient beings awaken to Buddhahood and to completely refrain to completely give up any harmful action, and to be endowed with this enlightened mind, this bodhicitta, this mind of awakening. With the mind may all sentient beings awaken. And what does it do actually, or what is the application of it? It is to be free of grasping, to a self, this notion of a self. And in a Tibetan word, the etymology, the word meaning means sang-ye. So sang, the first word means to purify. So that's this meaning, to be purified of this grasping and notion, this attachment to a self. In fact, based on grasping to a self, there will be stirring up of disturbing emotions. The 5, or then all the way up through the whole elaborate disturbing emotions, all the way up to 84,000 disturbing emotions. And based on that, we accumulate karma. We accumulate karmic seeds, and based on that, we wander in samsara. Or we could even say that the ocean of samsara, the 6 realms of samsara, is nothing else than the self-manifestation of the kleshas, or the disturbing emotions. So again, so what is the method actually to purify this? The method is to melt this block of ice of grasping to a self. And it's important to recognize that all sentient beings have this, without bias, in all cultures. It's not about, oh, I'm in this Buddhist school, or I'm Buddhist, or these are Christians. We have to be free of this, otherwise we grasp to these notions, oh, I belong to this group, and I attach to this group, or I'm in favor of this group, or spiritual community in contradiction, or to another. So then we are again into this duality of attachment and worship. And this only creates harm, even in the name of religions. So that's actually only feeding more our disturbing emotions. No, quite the opposite. We have to generate love, loving kindness, the 4 limitless thoughts or meditations, and ultimately bodhicitta, the enlightened mind with the thought, and also the application of practice and the realization. May all sentient beings awaken to Buddhahood. Since all have their cause in their mind, the Buddha nature pervades all their minds, may they be free of this temporary grasping and suffering. And based on grasping to self, they are fallen into this dualistic notion of self and others. May they be free of this duality, may they recognize the sky-like nature of their mind. And if they recognize this, that's this meaning of, the first meaning of awakening of Buddhahood, sang-ye, sang. So they are purified from this dualistic, deceived, confused notion. All sentient beings have this cause, as we just heard. And then if we look actually, for example, in the context of Buddha Amitabha, how did he reach enlightenment? In fact, not just Buddha Amitabha, all the Buddhas of the 3 times, how of the past, the present, and the future, how did they or will they reach Buddhahood? It's always 3 steps. First, initially they created this authentic motivation, this bodhicitta, these 2 stages of bodhicitta, for the benefit of all countless beings. So that's the beginning. Then in the intermediate, as the second step, they accumulated countless merits through countless eons actually, and purified their obscurations. And through this then third, if their obscurations were purified, they recognized the 2 stages of selflessness and awakened to manifest Buddhahood for their own benefit, in their own wisdom body, the Dharmakaya, and then the two form bodies, or Rupakayas, for the benefit of all sentient beings. So for their own benefit they realize the Dharmakaya, and then out of that manifests the Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body, which is also nothing else than the pure realms. So this is true also for the Devachen, for this pure realm of Amitabha, that out of this realization of the Dharmakaya, the pure realm of the Sambhogakaya rose from this perfect aspiration of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is always at the beginning. This generation of this motivation is at the beginning of every awakening. So and now in the context of Sugavati, or the pure realm of Amitabha, or Devachen as it's called in Tibetan, the great bliss, the one who taught or first propagated actually the qualities of the pure realm of Devachen, the qualities, the benefit, its origin and source, was nothing else than Buddha Shakyamuni himself. The Buddha Shakyamuni was considered special or supreme among all the Buddhas. A Buddha was endowed with 500 powerful, auspicious prayers. It's actually in the Kangyur, in the written words directly which go to trace back to the Buddha. There he accounts also the story of Amitabha and praised the qualities and the origin. Just as we heard before, that first also himself he gave rise to bodhicitta and then practiced for countless eons. But also the relationship they had in the past, these two. That there was a universal monarch, a king, a Chakravartin, and Shakyamuni was a minister, and he already had then also in his many past lives before this relationship to Amitabha. And then Amitabha, as we heard, he went through his 3 steps, rose bodhicitta, accumulated a great wealth of merit, and awakened to full and perfect enlightenment. And out of this truth body then emanated the pure realm of the Sugavati or Devachen. So there's also a famous quote then, which goes back to Shakyamuni: whoever wholeheartedly remembers the name of Buddha Amitabha, prays fervently to Buddha Amitabha, whoever does this has the opportunity to be reborn in its pure realm, in the Sugavati or Devachen.
내가 지금 강대라 가시게 되네. 없어 그 나와서 따라서 좀 살아서 막 마시와 같이 세som 드라마를 요래. 오 내가 지금 강대 이거 때문에 세som 드라마를 요래. 내가 때 강에 무고도 7만 원 주는 게 체를 보고 이제 나도 몇 개만 통사도 지금 요새 봐도 내 말만 되지. 저는 체를 몇 개만 통 체를 이거 말해. 무고다 무조지 우리라는 통수 제일 받은 체를 말해. 그 체를 그 정도로 얘네한테 우리한테 소통된 통부터 도주 되는 여러 뭐 망고 요래. 얘는 세금 통속으로 많이 거지. 이 세금 내려오는 얘네들이 세금들이 닦고씩 하면 세금 줘요. 마다냐 하면 세금 줘요. 얘들 저 사람 대부분 남자한테 하거나这些看有容的，你从那有容，是有东北的、南京的、有么的，你中国有中国的，有大咖的，那个是你从通过没了不要的，他们人从不都没有的，别人没他做多呢，谁就把这讲的，肉卡卡的，东西刚硬卡卡的，那没就都这是一样的样了，呀。这现在这样多把它都没有，我就把这当了，就把这当原来呀，这倒是看嘞，我这些看干啥做的，有么个啥做这倒啊可能，社会这的就把人，这社会这的，这大地上有么个人，别人马路啊路花差不多啊，这三头身上人的对，啥是啥，那个头一张他做长期工作，第二天看这个话，你做这个细节工作的，第二天做的，第二天看这你的三头身的，这样三头身的做的，这样多过能三头身的工作的，这知道了。第二天干理结婚，咱们上海有三头身的工作的。
So. But then, if we look at a pure realm, for example here, a pure realm of Sugawati or Devachan of Amitabha, some people have doubts, even like among the Buddhist tenets, if we apply Buddhist philosophy, or even other actually philosophy, might have the doubt, well, is it really existing or not? Is there really a pure realm of Amitabha in this specific context, or a pure realm in general? Do they exist or not exist? Well, the thing is, if we analyze it with an analytical, dualistic mind, which is grasping to characteristics and phenomena, we cannot perceive a pure realm. Obviously, we cannot see a pure realm with our eyes. It's not perceivable with our eye faculties. And if we analyze it and investigate it, for example, through methods of science, it will obviously be very hard to perceive or to actually to prove a pure realm. Because in science we have the axiom, the fundamental rule that we have to be able to prove it has to be directly perceived. We have to be able to make a link through direct perception what we observe in an experiment, for example. This is like the rules of science. But then also, beside a pure realm, we have to accept that or maybe we want to accept or can see that there's many things which we cannot see directly with our eyes, or other, for that reason, with other sense faculties. In fact, going back to a pure realm, it's directly connecting to the nature of our mind, not through our analytical, dualistic, logical mind, but a pure realm connects with our true nature of our mind, which cannot be understood with analytical, empirical, logical mind. We have to understand the cause and the results relationship between this true state of our mind and the pure realm. And in that sense, we can really realize that something like a pure realm in general, or Devachan, can really manifest. Also, we know that there is other realms manifesting. For example, if our mind is solidly frozen with grasping to self and disturbing emotions, there's like lower realms, as we talk, the three lower realms. But also these we cannot directly perceive with our eyes. But for example, even if we look, what we can see, for example, the difference between animals and humans and different kinds of animals, even though we have the same base in our mind, the same fundamental nature of the
Tathagata Garbha, still what we go through is very different. Different humans, different animals, and different kinds of suffering. But nevertheless, all of these are striving for happiness. They all have this natural movement, like this inherent moving towards happiness and to avoid suffering. So there's the same ground actually in our nature of our mind, but then it depends whatever circumstance we meet. If we give rise to a lot of disturbing emotions like aversion, anger, hatred, for example, this will be truly the cause for rebirth in the low realm, maybe even like in a hell realm. But on the other hand, if we generate compassion and bodhicitta in our mind, this will lead to temporary rebirths in higher realms and ultimately to full awakening, or exactly like here in this context, for example, to a manifest realm of the Sugavati, the pure realm of Amitabha. So we have to understand the cause. If we want to perceive and reach the pure realm, so to say, of Devachan, we have to give rise to bodhicitta in our mind. So that's really a necessary need. So now, if we look at this prayer of the Devachan prayer, I guess which everybody was handed out this booklet in English. It would be great if we could read this again and again for ourselves, to really bring our mind into this prayer. It describes very profoundly actually the the deep meaning, actually, the deep qualities and benefits of Devachan. And also, if we would summarize it, we would have like 4 causes, we could say, or like 4 reasons how to reach the pure realm of Devachan. So first, what is described is like the tree of accumulation, what it's called, or the merit field, actually, which is Buddha Amitabha, and then the praising of his qualities. And after the qualities are praised, then we have we gain confidence. We gain also faith that, well, that's a place where I want to go. That's a place where I want to be led with my consciousness to this pure realm of Devachan. In contrast, in this life, we are just propelled by our disturbing emotions and the accumulation of karma which we accumulate through this, through which we are constantly reborn in the 6 realms of samsara. But upon hearing the qualities, the great qualities and benefits of Sugavati, the pure realm of Amitabha, we will get the deep wish, the deep longing and desire to be reborn in this pure realm. So again, these words are very, very deep. It's a very deep meaning of these words, and it would be good to read it again and again. And as we already heard on the previous talk, yeah, there is also happiness in this world. There can be even something maybe which is called great happiness, or maybe even bliss in this world. But it has a few characteristics. First, we have to work very hard actually in this world to get really some deep states of happiness. It comes with a lot of struggle, and it's also an impermanent phenomena. It will decrease and disintegrate again. And we need also a lot of merit actually to create a lot of happiness in this life. But Devachan, that's why it's also called the pure realm of a great bliss. It's naturally abiding there. In fact, it's spontaneously present. Lundrup means it's spontaneous present, a great bliss. It doesn't come together through hard work and effort. The whole place there is present, like with the Buddha and the whole retinue, celestial mansion, and all this of this pure realm is spontaneously there. And to have no doubt into that, it's important to generate bodhicitta, enlightened thought, enlightened mind, with the deep wish to be reborn in the pure realm of Devachan without having any doubts upon hearing and contemplating about the qualities of Devachan. So that we really have the deep wish in our mind and the conviction, I want to go there, I want to be reborn in this pure realm. So it has to come together with bodhicitta, obviously, that's very important, but then the actual method, the methodology, so to say, to be reborn there is a great accumulation of merit and the purification of obscurations. And the accumulation of merit is done mainly through the 7-branch prayer, which is also here elaborated in this prayer. The 7 branches, which were elaborated also yesterday a little bit. This is the cause, actually, and it's a cause which is in itself a direct antidote for the 6 disturbing emotions. So we have the base, the support, which is like the field of merit of the pure realm of Amitabha, which is described here. Based on that, we generate faith and a deep longing to reach the Devachan, generation of a bodhicitta, and then the 7-branch practice in order to purify disturbing emotions.
리치인데 런던기야 런던이라고 그래요. 런던 런던이 사기 힘받아 제안을 받아서 하고 있죠 뭐를 얘는 힘받아들 생긴 상태를 일을 가르치나 대파통제 때문에 하고 요래 유모를 해다는 유모가 나갈 관계나 이게 담긴 친구요래 무슨 이거는 망치는 좀 다지다 유모만 보고 대답들 레인이 와서 이제 동의를 공지체는 요래 공업에 제와지 생기상지 생각 내로 마동은 레장 유모고 레사 그 다지 이게 바라 이선지 철는 이제 제가 다 레서 받을 하자 공지체 뭐지 신분이 시대로 통제해지 이제 레서 받을 나한테 유모를 레서하고 뒤줄더니 제 잠시 용만 생활하는 사바는 공지거든요 고소 탑 공지 잡도 다고 이제 계속 똑똑하게 하고 공업에 공지 제보를 해 신분이 시대로 통제해지 그리고 제가 전에는 되니까 다른 로아를 좀 카운트 좀 쭉을 남아나서 그러니까 저쪽으로 기와 저쪽으로 나서 봤더니 나서 저쪽으로 사기 코스로 제바가더니 좀 생기상태로 받는 거요. 대다가 산지진 신바다 제와 네바 대다가 요아래에서 산지용 뒤하거나 실제로 소화답시요. 다 대다가 장내주나 그러면 잡게 토사리 이제 그리고 하고 저기요 이제 받은 시키고 그래서
So, as we heard, the body of Buddha Amitabha is like a light body who is huge, as big as the sky, pervades in all directions. And the pure realm, Devachan, is just like a rainbow manifesting. So we might think about that, or we might contemplate about it and seeing it on a picture, but this is not quite the actual representation, what the qualities are. The qualities of Buddha Amitabha are these threefold qualities of the knowing quality, or we could also say the omniscient knowing quality. The second quality is the quality of great love and compassion, and the third is that of the dynamic or potentiality of enlightened activity. So if we contemplate upon this threefold qualities of Buddha Amitabha, actually of every Buddha, but here of Buddha Amitabha, we will gain a lot of confidence, conviction and faith. And therefore it's good to read this booklet again and again. It's room to believe it's also in Chinese, but here I think we have only English, yes. So that's how we read it in English generally, or in your mother tongue. And so do also the practices. It's to be practiced actually. So the 7 branch practices which are in there is truly to accumulate merit and to purify obscurations. So to really read and put our mind into this prayer and to study these qualities. So among these qualities, the first quality, this omniscient knowing of a Buddha, is this quality of Amitabha who knows the state of mind and situation of all beings, who completely realizes the authenticity that if we accumulate disturbing emotions, through this we will only experience suffering. Through disturbing emotions, we will accumulate a lot of negative karma. Through not recognizing the true nature of our mind, we fall in the duality of self and others. We make this split of self and others. And all these sentient beings who are not recognizing this, towards these beings, that's the second quality of every Buddha here of Amitabha, generates limitless love and compassion for all the sentient beings who are not recognizing this. And then Amitabha, out of great love, of limitless love and compassion, he sends like the hook of compassion, as it's called, the hook of compassion of a Buddha. If this meets with the faith and trust of a student, there is a true bond, a link. And then thirdly, it's the quality of enlightened activity. So that's this dynamic expression or power of a Buddha in his enlightened activity, which is also the manifestations of the Nirmanakaya. So the many fold aspects of Nirmanakaya, like the manifold Nirmanakaya, supreme Nirmanakaya, and other forms of Nirmanakaya. So it's important to study and to contemplate upon these three qualities or authenticities, we could say, his omniscient knowledge of Amitabha, his limitless love and compassion, and then his power and his enlightened activity. And if we take this to heart and then pray deeply from our heart and realize, well, this is really a place of refuge. This is really something which can give me shelter and protection. And through this we gain a deep faith, trust and conviction. So we heard before that the actual methodology, the method to reach this pure realm is a great accumulation of merit, and for this also the purification of obscuration. We thought about the seven branch prayer, so that's in the prayer also of the aspiration to Deva Chen, it's in here, but we also need to understand the meaning of it. What's the meaning of these seven branches? We need to know the significance of it. And generally we can say that these seven branches are a direct antidote to the 6 kinds of kleshas, the 6 kinds of disturbing emotions or mental poisons which are in us. So the first branch is prostrations with body, speech and mind, and this is a direct antidote towards pride. Pride which we might have, that we think on the deepest level, that we think, well, I'm completely self-reliant. I don't need anything. I don't need any help. I can do all myself. I don't need any protection. I don't need any refuge. So that's the culmination, the culmination of pride actually. But then if through negative accumulations of karma we are reborn in one of the 3 lower realms, or even in this life sometimes, if we face tremendous suffering, great disease, or even outer worldly catastrophes and stuff, then if we're honest, we are not completely self-reliant. We are not empowered. We can't do everything ourselves to really protect us and to give us refuge in this very difficult situation. So henceforth, to bow, actually, also physically, to bow his head, and to take refuge. So that's the antidote. So henceforth, prostration. And prostrations we do, as we heard before, with body, speech, and mind. So we physically bow. We do the prostration also as we know that. And mentally we recite the, for example, refuge prayer, or just here also the 7-branch prayer. And then mentally we bring, from the bottom of our heart, we bring forth a strong confidence and faith. Particularly also, for example, in the law of cause and effect, karma, cause and effect. And in order to understand this, we need to have faith, as it said. And there is usually a threefold description of faith. We have a pure faith, then we have a wishing or a wanting faith, and then we have the faith of conviction or confidence. So the pure faith arises upon hearing the qualities of the Buddhas, the qualities and benefits of a Buddhahood, if they are described. Pure faith arises. The wishing or wanting faith is the faith that I want to be free of suffering myself. And then the third is the faith of confidence, which is a confidence in the law of cause and effect, karma or cause and effect. To actually have confidence that loving kindness and compassion or bodhicitta per se is like the cause for happiness, or grasping to self and disturbing emotions is the cause for suffering. So this is the third, the faith of conviction or confidence. So together with these 3 kinds of faith, the longing faith, the wishing faith, and the faith of confidence, for this brought together as one, we practice.
이러는 신방 매 봐서 망고 좀 정이 되어서 토야요 봐. 놓쳐서 세는 이분 주가 그러지 않았어.
So the second, the antidote to attachment and miserliness is offering, to dedicate and to make offerings. Actually not dedication, to make offerings. So generally if we look at the 5 sense objects, the 5 objects of pleasure or sense, we have very often the need, oh I want this, I need this, I want this, I want to have this. All this wealth, abundance which we accumulate through this need, I want this, I need this. But then also what comes with it is attachment. So that we actually grasp to all these belongings and attach to them. And if we get something, then we enjoy it, I want this. But then also we grasp, it comes with a strong grasping. And this grasping itself can be the cause for difficult states, even like for rebirth in a lower realm. For example, even animals who have to carry a lot of burden and have to carry a lot on their shoulders actually. Then also miserliness is that I want something for myself, I want to get things, but I don't want to share it. I want to keep it myself. I don't want to share it, and I have fear of losing it, fear that others can steal it, and so forth. This mental state of miserliness, and together with the karmic formations which are formed, can or will lead to a rebirth in the hungry ghost realms of the yidaks, where we have no belongings, where there's this fear of constant losing, or that these beings steal from each other, and based on this fear of that things are stolen, we get angry, we have aversion, or even get hateful in our mind. So this again provokes and propels other disturbing emotions. So henceforth it's important to the second branch of the 7-branch prayer to make offerings. Even when we eat, whatever we eat, we offer to the Buddhas or to the free jewels actually, to give it away first, to offer it. And this cause of offering is the cause for a great accumulation of merit for now. Right when we do it, but it also creates then the habitual tendency that we will do it more and more. Also in future they will be generous and they will make offerings. So sometimes we have actual physical things which we contribute, which we offer, but then even if we don't have a lot of physical belongings which we offer, we can do it mentally through mental fabrication. Even if we have a tanka or even a small representation of a Buddha, that we countless manifold manifestations of offerings imagine, and we offer them. And this is, as we heard, a direct antidote to attachment, to grasping, and to miserliness.
말레사 바다 마음을 사저때 뜻밖에 나서 이 강연에 되게 내가 누구 봐서랑 매고 뛰는 거예요. 뛰어들이 탑요 말이 마키가 탑요 말 뛰어들아 샤바지는 늦바래 용띠 미장 샤바에다 봐도 좀 용띠지. 그러면 늦바 총총 그렇게 샤바치 못잖아요. 배용치 보용 거래 사람한테 받다 필요해. 때문에 코만 매반이 쌍팽이 유모 받다다 유가 돼. 내가 레서 되는데 레시 받에 설명하를 내. 쌍팽이 나무 샘되게 되면 유모 받아나 유모 받에 대한 거요래. 그래 꼬마를 잘아 먹구나. 잘아데 대기고 말 꼬마한테 대기고래. 꼬마까지 꼬마한테 유모 받에 되나. 유모가 되는 내 사마더니 유모가 나지 서로요. 대회는 저기다가 동행나봐 나서 유모가 되대. 듣고서 유모가 맞아 알았더니 샤바제 마신 뒤에서 내진 용구요래. 그래서 샤바를 피는 거래잖아. 다 기왕 말하기 잠비 도발라서가 도마 슈 그렇게 바치 좀 도마텔은 가르테라고 하나 어떻게 시작하지나 제가 동네 때도 돼서 용내는 한 동네에서 조금 타고래 그는 나타도 자들고 때 민피에 다 타고요 강의 용기 뜻발 시작하시는 게 시작과 짜는 말이 레지 이 좁다고 용말 산지루선 조금 더 없어 레레트는 효를 수 있어 레버서 시작하지 그 시작과 용기는 되는 다 나한테서 동네 강의 참필에 조금 탑 제바들이 시작과 용기에 대회 마시면 되봐 당시에 양당양도 중에 이 유모가 됐지는 가지는 누가 제보지 마음과 대통령이 저뭐 하고는 누가 쳐보고 그랬더니 누가 시작과 용기에 있어 시작과 제바들이 시작과 용기에 가야 되나 왜나 세상 제보를 지나 다다가 동네 참피야 니기 주어야지 문제에 주발래 마음과는 되게 동네 쪽으로 유모한테 하자 또 자랑 통네 딱 유모는 한 먹고 상 끝이지를 매주 세상은 세상대 누가 친구 주는데 내 세상대 내가 놓으래 세상은 내가 손을 따주셔 그래요 어쩌면서 고성으로 고로 재미니 다 돈다 청소년과 고로랑 좀 호조 지금 하는 거 그래서 하고는 호조를 좀 하는 호조 또 이것들이 차도 그냥 전화 유무가 강제로 세미 지방사도 알아 내 양호를 지방사도 마찬가지로 응학을 내 제차는 들이 독도 그냥 니가 발만 주고 잡았잖아요 내 나와서 그래요 로상 다원 장성들이 시작하고 요래 잡았지는 다 잡고만 또 시작하는 유무가 다 잡고 요바시네 그래서 세상 깨잖아 오늘 코로나 세상에 매화성 다시 아프고요. 가시자니 잡반대 담지 대바이 얘기 좀 하고 로파니 나한테까지 다 열어서 맞춰서도 말이 다 여기 소식도 하고 뭐 조나당 누구 같은 매화성 세상도 차도 매화성지 이게 좀 찾으러 다 타와야지. 좀 세상도 차도 서는 일이 이게 좀 몸으로 손한 요리 당도가 그렇게 약하게 오면 대답을 고아차네. 샤바니지 가리 요게 요가 내려 샤바에만 다 요가 쳐봤잖아요. 만족 시동이지. 많이 유모지 하지만 우리 먹고 싶고야 보면 세계에 되고 가지게는 게 가고 오서는 만족 시동은 되네. 그래서 요래 그래서 유모봐. 그래서 차도 나서봐. 누가 잡고 있나? 저를 하고 여기 와서 봤던데 나는 먹을 거네. 하고 여기 와서 봤던데 자꾸 여기 누가 잡고 있나?
So the next branch is confession, which is a direct antidote to hatred in particular, and also to jealousy. And through all the karmic accumulation which we accumulate through hatred and jealousy in this particular context, but also then generally to other disturbing emotions which arise in our mind. So this is the method actually to purify them through confession. Otherwise there's no true method to purify the accumulation of disturbing emotions. It says that negativity or obscurations have no quality. The only quality is that we can confess them. So that's the only good news, so to say. I didn't say this in words, but that's the only quality in it, that we can actually confess it. And no matter how small it is, it's to be mindful, to be aware actually when we commit negative actions or give rise to certain disturbing emotions, that we can confess them right at the moment. Because this, since beginningless time, is the cause for all our suffering in samsara. All these disturbing emotions, the accumulation of karma which we accumulate for this, and the ripening of the experiences of suffering in samsara. So the negative actions are basically mainly committed through body and speech, But the ruling factor behind is the mind. The mind generates the disturbing emotions. So we have to directly work with the mind and confess what's appearing in the mind. For example, also if we have a thief or something is stolen, the disturbing emotion, the actual thief is the disturbing emotion, like the one who steals. It's not primarily the physical action, but it's the disturbing emotion which is governing or which is ruling behind. So all these many sufferings which have the root in negativity and disturbing emotion, we can confess them, so that we, for them, don't accumulate very heavy karma. For this, we can kind of cut it down. Even if we took vows, for example, in the past, we took vows and commitments, and then if we still would commit negative actions and harmful actions, we can still confess them, and it's important to confess them, and it's also this quality that we can confess them. And if we don't confess the negativity, we don't have any other method, or in other words, that's our only method, our only hope to work, to address directly the negative occurrings in our mind, to confess them right now, and also so that they don't propel into the future, and of course also with the resolution that we will not commit these negative actions anymore. For example, again, if we take example of anger or hatred, it's the cause of the suffering which we experience right now, as well as also it will be the cause for future suffering. So we need to confess these disturbing emotions like hatred, jealousy, particularly here, but basically all the disturbing emotions. And before we actually accumulate heavy karma for them. And it's important also from a time perspective that we confess them immediately or as quickly as possible. The longer we wait, the more difficult it is actually to work with this, or in other words, we would already accumulate karma. So it's important to confess them as soon as we remember them, and also to create some regret in the mind. It's not just the confessing, but also to really regret that we accumulated this, and then also with the resolution of not committing this negativity anymore. Sometimes people even ask me, is it okay enough to just recite Vajrasattva mantra, like if I say 100 Vajrasattva mantras, or some other methods. And of course they are very favorable methods and very potent in themselves. But again, the method in itself, the power in the method lies into confessing. We really have to confess the negativity. It's not just the application of the mantra. If we don't have the right motivation, we might recite 100,000 mantras, Vajrasattva for example, and obviously yes, we will accumulate a lot of merit, but the actual purification happens with the confessing, with regretting and confessing that we have committed like negative actions. So that's important.
Roma Prince, the Pata Ma, Nishi, Zapsi, Hajan Zewati Pro, they have supported the cultural shoulder. They have one generacy, Nipatani, Chairman, Dominion Guyore, the Nipati Shabu, they support separately Tata, Jan Prince, Shapat, Chippy Shapat, and Chippy, all the bar. Continuing from the Tibetan, Shabat rapidly. The Kashin, the young Chavan Yogo, or Koto Givishi, Kashira, and Chupa Shorson, Shorson of the Shapachi is. Shapachi, Givishi needs a bit. I chang Shapa Bogo, Chang Malam Bogo, Ma Chang Bogo, Lapato, Shapa, Negamadox. Givishi needs a unit something. There's Zuba Bogo. Givishi needs a name. Sapa Malana, Givishi, the Sat of many parts, the site of Sabaton, Jinji charge of many parties, Givish of entity, Ben Sancho, some Timbo, so from a Coco, Casa Chena, there pass Juba Congo money. 내가 공부선에서 사족선 못 먹었다 차고 요래 내가 랑기자 빠지 저쪽 뭐 홈런 말하는 말하는 것도 말하는 것도 랑기 빠지 뭐 얼마도 어떻게 도만 빠져 말이지 그때서 어떻게 사과를 파마던 자기 사과들이 랑그 파마주고 부분이 줬더니 나다 포마 그냥 왕냠도 좋아 잡동냠도 좋아 대상교 하다더니 내리치지 대상교 하다 편주든지 상태게 그래가지고 정말 제가 처럼 마음으로 저기를 도와줘야 되는 노요에 놀랐대 담책이 봐서더니 종이 싹바는 거에 영어가 뭐지 영어 말이 그래서 네가 밤만 주고 자고 오지 하다 비치고 그랬지 그래서 아주 다동문 사파도 노지 부는 출발은 이거 많이 노지 부는 시까지 또 상속처럼 도박 왕년도 시절 때 노지 부는 성구를 이 파마주 부분에 좀 대하장님 같이 보여 노지 당성만 차나 이거 제가 마음으로 냠도 적절 도와주는 산이 삼계 냠도 삼계 도요 이제 강릉 냠도 도요 이 하자 같이 모래 그래서 보면 담색들.
So particularly this is significant and important in the context of the Vajrayana teachings among students, especially students who take together instructions, for example, refuge vow, bodhisattva vow, or particular empowerments, but also then in worldly context where we have very strong bonds, let's say between parents and children, or where we have very deep friendships. So it's important there to be on guard, that we do not generate a lot of disturbing emotions like anger and so forth, which will result in a lot of suffering in the future. So it's important to immediately be aware of negativity and to confess it. The best would be if one could mutually confess it in both directions, even speak it out. But then the second best, at least if we really do it in our mind with a deep regret, as we heard before with the stages, and then confess. And also, for example, in the context, sometimes I'm asked, in context to a teacher, if we have maybe negative views towards a teacher, or even start to argue or quarrel or something, then some might say, or some teacher might say, oh, it's okay, don't worry. But we should not leave it with that actually. Still, if we created maybe a negative view or criticize the teacher or something, we should really regret it actually and really confess it. And it's not just enough if somebody says us it's okay or something, so we should really regret it. And of course, on the other hand, there is sometimes circumstances where even between students and lamas there is like arguments. And of course also the Lama has to do it from his side. It's like if an authentic Lama, he needs to be endowed with bodhicitta. And if he would get angry and really show anger or something, that would be very harmful for himself too. He would really need to be able to practice patience on his side. It says a bodhisattva or a true bodhisattva will never get angry in any situation. He will be able to bring it on the path and to meditate upon patience. So generally again, it's important that we confess immediately upon recognizing a disturbing emotion, particularly like this heavy ones like hatred, jealousy, and again, particularly where we have very strong bonds, like parents, children, very close friends, and then again, particularly in the context of the Vajrayana, or with people we took together refuge vow, bodhicitta vow, or where we took empowerments together. It says where we took empowerments together or hold the same samayas, these are our Vajra brothers and sisters, and if we break the samayas with them, that's actually the third downfall among the 14, I believe. So it's important to immediately recognize this and to confess it, since also in the context of the Vajrayana, it says that the Vajra brothers and sisters, they travel along and they will be reborn together in a pure realm if they keep their samayas pure.
다섯 나 왕을 가네 왕 자신아 자가 담색 찍마가 더 말이지 다 남이 자기 모든 무주의시는 수남시해요래 수남다 초사하지 마대서 이제 찍발에 가네 너는 내일 이제 찍어야지 삼재래 그리고 공부했더니 이 체형은 너무 최고지는 짜리 처음에는 너무 방법을 그래 그러나 이나고 담색되는 생각이 다르지 너무 약간지 차나 이제 담색 이나고 담색 짜리 담색 너무 처음에는 체력을 처음에는 딱 미치는 못해더라 내가 돌아요 말이야 도와다 잘하고 그래 현아 타와서야 요 말 삼재는 삼재를 뛰는 소리를 타 내가 덮고 그래 삼재 최고는 사지 공하는 내가 덮고 그래 너는 내 기초가 삼재인데 뒤에 남아져서 답책이 나는지 답책은 서는 거를 짜서 가지고 그래 소송 타가를 그 양문 그래 얘는 깎아서 위에서 콘트롤 찍는 남발세 이거 봐 좋기는 콘트롤 똑시 이 가리에 딱 깎아서 위에서는 삼바는 이게 빼는 강사 페인팅이 로종한 이셔를 남길 되는 남도 쪽 짜치거든요. 이만큼 콘트롤은 콘트롤 상태에 딱 보고 요래. 콘트롤 상태는 되는 소리가 톡톡고 요래. 상태에서 짜치거든요. 이게 짜치거든 보면 상태에 고고래. 오, 이게 짜치거든 수능지와 오지고래. 이게 세요 요래. 이게 대통령 될 담색 차듯이 그러면 담색 뭐 담색 일을 하고 이 말을 되겠지.
So and again, particularly in the context of the Vajrayana, in the context when we take empowerments, we might take 100 empowerments in different deities, different practices, but the root samaya is really loving kindness and compassion. So that's the cause of all. It's the cause of all the happiness. The cause of all the accumulation of merit is loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta per se. And this is the root samaya which we have to maintain and uphold. For example, if we take the outer example of a tree, if we deprive the tree of water in the roots, the whole tree will die. So that's the root, is really like this root samaya, is loving kindness and compassion. There's many other branch samayas. If we harm some branches of a tree, or they might be harmed by some outer influence, the whole tree will not die. But if you deprive the roots from a tree with water, with the absence of water, which is here the example for loving kindness and compassion, then the whole tree will die. So that's the root of all the samayas. And it will bring tremendous harm, and it will only bring harm upon ourselves. That's really how we harm ourselves. If we give up the cause for liberation, or if we deprive ourselves by the actual cause of liberation. And the worst of all the disturbing emotions is definitely aversion and anger or hatred. That's the strongest one. It says that even one instant of anger can destroy a whole accumulation of merit through countless times. So it's important to be on guard and to watch out. Also in long-term relationships or friendships, we sometimes see like if there is very strong anger and we are not able to patiently take this on a path, that it can be very harmful to our relationships. And again, this is if we deprive ourselves from loving kindness and compassion, we take away the cause or the root for our own liberation, for rebirths in higher realms or for a full and complete liberation. So therefore we can say that the root of all the virtue and merit is loving kindness and compassion. So it's important to be careful with the samayas, and they are not that easy to really uphold them in a pure way.
타도 그냥 뭐라 지세 여러분이 나와서 타도 지바들들이 답이 주로 지기 뭐로 강의만한테 그 나디 쇼크를 타도 제거를 그 나선이 타도 제거를 그리 주바를 타도 제거를 로마마를 타도 제거를 나디 쇼크에서 말이 기와도 말이 야가 오는 데들 타도 때문에 타도 되게 사람들 그 양쪽 뭐 타도도 시장을 들어가요. 이 이제 이는 랑는 뭐가 되라. 이거 보마 차들 기술 양공이요. 내는 랑는 뭐가 뭐 기구나. 어떻게 되는 게 동나 가요. 어떻게 강에 다 가요. 역할발로 타도 될 때, 소놈지 능력을 기세라는 거는 마음을 두개 써서 타고 있어요. 얘는 기와를 기세라는 거, 생기 탐지 가와다 네와 속에서 와서 못할 때 기세라는 거 없나? 이 소나는 타고 있어요. 그러나 너는 가와가 뭐 배워서 기세라는 건 거래서 능력의 소리 경기 기고래서 차도 뭐 기세라는 나서 그는 며칠 그게 다 치고서 줬냐. 소설을 가냐 그렇게 내나요. 오, 지들이 하고 계속 삼는데 지소는 남도 덮고 요래. 네, 문제 짓더니 골로 자고 치고도 또뭐 골 남자들이 인공시라 당 초바거든. 나를 아무 직장 매번 아무 저게 고모 같은 거 맞지. 오, 자고 치고도 가리 하고 계속 마음과 소설은 됐다고 지지 오나 사람들이 뭐 짓을한 건데 사실 돈이 이제 자고 치랑당 까먹는 있으면 기발이 그래서 말이야 짓을한 거는 쓰는 기발하고요 너는 가서 대화를 짓을한 건 능력이 짓을한 건 이거 말해야지.
So the next branch is to rejoice. And rejoice is actually the direct antidote towards jealousy. We already talked before with jealousy in other contexts, but here the direct antidote to jealousy is to rejoice. To rejoice, to be happy if others are happy, to rejoice in the joy of others. And we can see this in the worldly context or in the Dharma context, actually the jealousy, the disturbing emotion. Obviously we know how it can arrive in and appear in the worldly context, but the root of it is grasping to self, wanting for myself, and not wanting that others are happy or thriving in abundance. It can also happen, as we said, in a spiritual context among students. They think, oh, he's better or he's doing so well in his practice, and we would be jealous. And obviously, ultimately, would only harm ourselves. In particularly jealousy, that's why it was already named before, has a very strong connection to anger, actually, to anger, aversion, and even hatred. In fact, the essence of jealousy is that you rejoice if somebody is not doing well, if somebody is actually suffering, if somebody is not happy, and so that's actually the rejoicing. And you're jealous of a good position of somebody else. If somebody has this or is like wealthy, abundant, and so forth, and this can easily generate actually anger and aversion in ourselves. So we have to be very careful with this disturbing emotion and to recognize it also as soon as it appears. If we rejoice in the suffering of others, or that others are not doing well, that will only create our own suffering for the future. On the other hand, if we can rejoice in the goodness and happiness of others, that others are happy, thriving, abundant, this will generate a lot of merit in ourselves. So if others are in happy states, and if others are doing good, instead of being jealous, to really generate deep joy in our hearts and to rejoice. It is said that if there is like a universal monarch, a Chakravartin, who is infinitely abundant in his outer wealth and abundance, and if we have a beggar on the other side, in contrast, if the beggar from the depths of his heart rejoices in all the prosperity, the abundance of the Chakravartin, and says how wonderful he has all this abundance and what he can do with his abundance, it's said that the beggar will gain as much merit actually, like the merit which created all the situation of the Chakravartin. So it says like if we rejoice very deeply in a situation, we'll gain equal merits. So that's very important, this branch of rejoicing.
뒷목을 이모 주저 홀로 보여야 뒷목 가래를 갖고 요리잖아. 뒷목도 빼더 줘리. 더 줘리더니 그런데 다또 소리치더 답답하 조동식이 말이다 가는 식이 말 빼세다가 문을 못 쳐내지나 내가 그 요리 내가 저 사족생 나중에 식이 말이 너희 먹고는 되게 좀 그게 와이바 맛이 돼. 너희 빵도 요 말이. 내가 너도 이제 먹게 와 단지 조지 인용 세상다 차도 원래 잖아. 요래 대위질 또 먹래. 얘는 추가 가래 팽을 추지 받은 탑부가 되더니 내 반이 동의가 말이. 냄바 담보지 고정고 냄바 하지. 그저 내가 보는 내가 저 사바다 hin제 좀 모르겠어. 그 동네 먹고는 동네 그 단지는 유모가 가버렸었다. 대라요에 대 속에 신나 다들 먹고 말이 레주비 신나. 따라하는 건 나도 남 나시가 동고 와서 나도 대화에는 뭐 내저 사바다 민족 접신이 왔지. 나 동네 먹고 진짜 단지에서 유모가 되는 거 빵고서는 진짜 진주로 추적으로 고정고 된 마서 그것도 대만 타서 왔더니 사바는 인지 유리 친구 제가 타서 나진이 매와 돈담고 대만 돈담고 나진이요 나진이요 말이 산재고만 탑탑이요 해서 내가 추중고 제세가 또 자와 대만이는 도요 왜 또뭐 이뭐 추중 홀로 거리나 다다양 산재 추송과 들었더니 생기만 거 동의를 줬고요 마음과나 대들었더니 사경 주력으로 꼴나야 소속 되라 이세라는 걸 쏘았다가 주력으로 고아 쏘았다면 이따가 주력으로란 게 호지 통화를 띄워다 랑 상판을 자유했더니 사람들도 보여줬더니 땜주력으로 주력으로 고아서 또 먹는 거라.
The next branch is to request to turn the wheel of the Dharma, which is a direct antidote to ignorance, or actually literally more stupidity, which is also represented by the animal realm, actually. We make this connection. It is just not knowing what I should do, not knowing what is to be accepted, what is to be abandoned, but even also on very practical levels. So that's this branch of requesting to turn the wheel of the Dharma. So even if we have this precious human rebirth, and even though we desire happiness, if we do not know the cause for actual happiness, loving kindness and bodhicitta, then we will continue to suffer. And even though that we don't want to suffer, we do not know the actual cause of suffering, and henceforth also not able to abandon the cause of suffering, and henceforth we unwillingly continue to suffer. So to this basic ignorance or stupidity, as it's literally called, is actually symbolized by this grasping to the self. That's the basic ignorance, the grasping to self, and all the disturbing emotions which arise from it, like hatred, jealousy, and so forth. So, in this sense, what is really of benefit? What is really of benefit is the medicine of the Dharma, and henceforth the necessity and the request to constantly turn the wheel of the Dharma. And the Dharma, the whole Dharma, we can comprise in the two truths. It is said that all the 84,000 parts of the instructions of the Buddha can be comprised in the two truths. We have the relative truth. The relative truth is to know what is actually the cause for happiness. That bodhicitta is the cause of happiness. And if we want to be free of suffering, we have to be able to give up the cause of suffering, which is grasping to self. In other words, to be informed upon the law of cause and effect, what is to be accepted, what is to be abandoned, and to make use of this precious human birth, where we can speak, communicate, and understand, and really apply this practice of the law of cause and effect, so that we are able to give up disturbing emotions. And then through practice we will arrive at finally at the absolute level of the absolute truth, where there is absolutely no distinction anymore between self and others, a state of non-duality, where there is no grasping to a self. So now, in the past and now, the Buddha Dharma was of incredible benefit for countless sentient beings, and it will continue to be of benefit if the Dharma is available. Henceforth, this branch to continuously request to turn the wheel of Dharma for the benefit of beings. So the next branch is to continuously supplicate the Buddhas and enlightened beings not to enter into nirvana, but to abide. So this is a direct antidote towards doubt. And doubt is actually a branch of ignorance, or stupidity, so to say. It's a branch of it. Some people say, well, I have faith in the Buddha and I can accept or believe that there was a historic Buddha there. But now the Buddha is not abiding. There's no Buddha here to really guide us. And that's not true. Even Buddha Shakyamuni, all the Buddhas, they are here in representation of their enlightened body, speech and might. In fact, even the realized lamas, or for example, if we take the context of the Dalai Lama, his body represents the Sangha. His speech is nothing else than the holy Dharma, and his enlightened mind is nothing else than the representation of the uninterrupted absolute truth of the union of great compassion and emptiness. So it's true for the Dalai Lama and all the great masters that they represent the three jewels. Again, their body represents the Sangha, or is actually the Sangha. Their speech is the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, and their enlightened quality of their mind is this unification of emptiness and compassion, and this non-dual state of the absolute truth. So this is the Lama, so the guide, so to say, and then there's the students, the ones who are literally to be trained or tamed, as it's called literally. but in fact they're all Nirmanakayas. In Nirmanakaya, we have two actually, like the pure and impure aspects of Nirmanakaya. The pure aspect will be the appearance of the Lama, the Nirmanakaya as the emanation body, and the impure aspect are all the other sentient beings, also including the students, who are temporarily obscured by ignorance and by temporary obscurations. But again, they are just like adventitious temporary veils. From the ultimate point of view, it's all primordially pure. From the ultimate point of view, there's not this distinction of purity and impurity. That's just from the relative point of view. So from an ultimate point of view, all sentient beings have never been separated from Buddha nature, or they are penetrated by Buddha nature. So, so this is to be recognized, and for that purpose we not only request, as before, the Buddhas to turn the wheel of the Dharma, but we also request them to not abide. To not enter actually, sorry, not to enter into Nirvana, and for this deep request we accumulate a great amount of merit.
Gita Danji Movi
Dancing.
Gita Danji Nipo, Kangin, Manu Giva Jero, Pena, Jiba Jachibo, Tanga, Omi Jiba Jachibo, Tango, Yamra Kaji, Manu Tonga, Mani Gita the Togo, Mara Gita the Togo, the other Londina. Anything much of Corona, Coro the Gita, Tangin, Coro, Lado, Gita the Judges. Gita Monan say, Mangan say, Ringubachian say, Song Pedro get us flat over. More children, Peshan Hana Japan again. Tata Manachapol, Senkitan, no something laugh of your money. Soon of the talk when Peshan Hana Japan or Katoma or Petty, Gita Karina, Kapakato, more for it. What do you count it in? I can was another topic at the mind, but simply touches the artist, simply to be the artist, get a daddy, moving and get a chum, watching what they are, Sanjay something more, to patch up in order. They could get a home, Masura, but I am not sure. Oh, the mom was I do with you, you should stop get up and watch it. 마음과는 가리 접근한 데 생긴 사람들 깨고 우선 대전이 초대적 발언을 했다. 근데 하장 쌓지 뭐 된지는 다다디 레우 같은데 레우 제대 요래 내가 지금 이제 근데 참말에 고상 감독 파서로 그런 것이다. 그거를 이제 대전은 이치로 와봐면 왕들은 아들이 와봐면 그 좋아야 보여요. 다음에 다시 뭐 하고 소나. 그 된다. 들어가 와서 이제 대표 소송 한 거를 줘. 그때 하다 보면 내가 소리만 좀 봐. 나는 참된 거요. 근데 기분이 나한테 하시는 거 좋고요. 근데 기분이 나는 이제 들이 지지나. 태성고가 말이지.
So then finally we have the dedication in the end. The dedication is a direct antidote towards grasping to a self. So that we give all the merit which we've accumulated, all the virtue which we've accumulated, we give generously away. We don't keep it for ourselves, but we give it away. And it's important to seal it with dedication and to quickly seal it with dedication, so that it's not interfered with disturbing emotions. For example, if we would suddenly give rise to anger, as an example, all this accumulation of merit would be lost. So it's important to dedicate it quickly. It's in a worldly context very much like if we would put money in a bank or in a safe. So it's really safe there, ideally. So that it's really safeguarded. And so the same we do with all our accumulation of merit. And we don't just dedicate it for our own benefit or for our own welfare, quite the contrary. We dedicate it, may through this merit which I accumulated, through this virtue, may be the cause that all countless sentient beings will be reborn in Devachen in the context of this practice. So no matter how small the merit is which we accumulated, we dedicate it towards the welfare of all sentient beings. May they reach full and perfect enlightenment. And we're not just doing it with the merit right now, for example, which you accumulate, but with all the merits in the 3 types. All the merit which I accumulated in the past, the merit which I'm accumulating right now, and even the merit I will accumulate in future, may all these merits be the cause for rebirth of all sentient beings in the pure realm of Devachen. So in this sense, again, Rinpoche stresses the importance and the preciousness of this prayer, the aspiration prayer of the Sugawati, how profound the words are in there, and in there in essence are the 4 causes upon which we are reborn in this pure realm. And again, it would be good to again read this book again, and maybe even get a chance in the lunch break to go through it. It would be a wonderful preparation also for the empowerment which Rinpoche will bestow in the afternoon. That we really are informed a little bit and know the quality of this pure realm, and would rejoice and bring a great joy and enthusiasm to receive this empowerment of Amitabha. So just this practice in itself, maybe also in combination with the 37 practice of the Bodhisattva, is in itself a complete full set of practice. And if we would just practice this without having any doubt, it would be most wonderful.
Thank you.